a lot of books to recommend today. As you would have seen by the title, I'm going to be giving you some recommendations based on books that are set in New York City. And I love a New York City setting. I love New York. I want to go back. I visited there in I think it was 2019. Absolutely loved it. And ever since then, whenever I find a book that's set in New York, I always end up liking it. So if you also like a New York City setting, I'm sure you will like so many of these books just like I did. But I do have a range of genres. Most of them are romance books, but I do have some other ones in there as well. And we'll start off strong with some romance books. Of course, I have to recommend the Kings of Sin series. There is currently 4 books out in this series. There's King of Wrath, King of Pride, then King of Greed, and King of Sloth. I do have King of Greed, but I haven't read it yet. And King of Sloth just came out last month, so still super new. But these are all set in New York City with really, really rich people. They're like millionaires, billionaires. So it's so fun to read about because they're rich people in New York City. And they do so many fancy things and there's fancy clubs they go to. I just love to see it. So definitely recommend if you haven't read these yet. This is the same author that wrote the Twisted series, which was also really popular. I don't know if those are set in New York City though, because I think there is some character overlaps, but I haven't read that series, so I'm not too sure. But these, definitely fun, rich New York vibes. So definitely recommend. But the next romance book is one that I read earlier this year and absolutely loved, and that would be The 7-Year Slip. And this is based around an apartment in New York City that is magical. The apartment can transport you back 7 years. So it's got sci-fi elements in there as well, but it's the perfect romance book and it's set in New York City. What more could you want? And because we do have those time jumps as well, you really get to see character growth, because you get to see some characters 7 years beforehand and then 7 years after. And I just really enjoyed that storyline. I love a little magical realism, and I never read anything by this author before. She also wrote The Dead Romantics, and I believe she also has another book coming out this year, which I'm not too sure what it's called, but I think that's also coming out super soon. And the setting, I would say, was a huge part of the story, because obviously we're following the apartment, which has the magicalness. But one of the characters is a chef and owns a few restaurants in the city, so you get to see different locations there. But also just the way they talk about the food in this, love it. The amount of times I was like, I want to eat a lemon pie, although I don't like lemon flavored things. But then, I don't know, it just made me want lemons. But besides the lemons, great book, definitely recommend. This next book, One Last Stop, is another one that's kind of magical realism. So this follows August, who just moves to New York City. This one is actually set in Brooklyn majority of the time, but as you can see with the title, One Last Stop, it also talks about the trains. But the train is an important part of the story because that is where our main character meets her love interest, who is Jane, and she's a time traveler. She's been stuck on the train for many a year, since the 1970s. There's all sorts of plot reveals there of what's going on with that whole situation, but we've got little time traveling things. And it's also really fun because it's a kind of mixed media. In the beginning of each chapter, we get some reviews, there's newspaper clippings and articles about interactions with Jane on the train over the years, people seeing her or something. But very interesting. This is also the same author that wrote Red, White and Royal Blue. And I've enjoyed all their books, so I knew I was going to enjoy this one as well. But this is somewhat different vibes because we're in Brooklyn, but it's super fun to see. Loved it. And the friend group as well. I guess you could kind of say it was a found family, and it was really cute. Really enjoyed that one. The next recommendation is a book that I feel most people will enjoy if they really like romance books, but I just didn't enjoy this one for some reason. But I know so many people like this author, and that is Lucy Score's By a Thread. And I did read this last year, and I don't know why I was having troubles with it, because it was just a really thick book and I didn't love the characters. But I think that's just a me problem because I've heard so many people like this book. But it is set in New York City, and the main characters work in this fashion magazine, so that's also really interesting to see. I did like the whole workplace talk because fashion magazine, New York City, kind of giving Devil Wears Prada, but not because it's a workplace romance. Grumpy Sunshine also, if you like that. I don't know, I just had problems with this book. Nothing major, I just thought that the characters were a bit funny and they had nicknames that I just didn't appreciate. They called each other Maleficent and Charming. Like, I don't know, and they were like old, not old, but like they were nearly 40. So I was like, oh, enough with the nicknames. But if you like Lucy Score and you do like a longer romance book, this was like nearly, I don't know, I think it was over 400 pages or something. It was pretty chunky, but I did read this on my Kindle. I liked it, just didn't love it. But if you like Lucy Score and you haven't read this and you are looking for a book set in New York City with like a fun job of a fashion magazine, definitely check it out. The next book I have to recommend is another book that I read on my Kindle, and it is Read Between the Lines. I really enjoyed this one. I think this was like also a 5-star read for me. I believe I read it last year, could have been the year before, I really don't remember. But this obviously set in New York City, and our main character Rosie, she owns a bookshop. And of course I feel like as a reader you love to see characters that either work in the book industry, whether that be publishing, writing, owning a bookstore. And in this we have both. We have a writer and a bookstore owner. But then there's also like hidden identities. Not really. It's like one of them knows who one is, but the other one doesn't know who one is till after. And then in like real life, she doesn't like the other person because of a plot line. I don't know if this is a spoiler, but like the building where the bookstore is getting repossessed. So I think they're like getting it knocked down or something because it's going to be developed into an apartment block or something like that. And then the girl that owns that company or is like doing the repossessing is also the writer that is Rosie's favourite writer. So it's good. Really enjoyed that one. And that's also a series, I believe. I don't know if it's just a duology. I did read both if it is a duology, but the second one's set in London. This one's set in New York City. Again, love the friend group, love the book setting, love the New York City setting with the bookshop. It was just like the perfect vibe. Definitely recommend. So fun. And I quickly just have one sci-fi book to recommend, which I don't actually own a physical copy of. I own the second book, but not the first. But the first one is The City We Became. This is a sci-fi, as I was saying, but it is set in New York City. And in this world, individuals, like people, can become the physical manifestations of cities. So in the book we do find out that there are other cities that are people as well, but in New York specifically, there is like 6 people that are the city, because we have New York as a whole and then we have the 5 boroughs. So you get to see all that. They're fighting like these interdimensional alien type things and they're trying to save New York. So it's really fun, really interesting. I was kind of confused at the beginning though, because I'm not usually a sci-fi reader, but once I got into it I was like, this is great. Again, kind of like Found Family. I love all the character interactions and I love how they like have the personality of someone that you would think of in each borough. So I really enjoyed that one. I haven't read the second one though. I should get on that. It is only a duology, so there's 2 books, but I just haven't read the second one. But the first one, really great. Definitely recommend if you like sci-fi. And then the last 2 books I have to recommend are young adult books. So first, Blackout. I think I've recommended this a few times on this channel before because I really enjoyed this. It is an anthology. As you can see, we've got a whole range of different authors and all the short stories are connected because all the characters are related in some way, whether they're like friends or cousins or siblings. But it follows all these characters in a blackout in New York City, which is definitely very interesting to read about because the chaos that can happen in a blackout of a major city. Like, I believe they've had blackouts before. I don't know if this is based on a real one. It was just such a fun story. I liked seeing how each of the stories were connected. And because we're following different groups of people or different friendships and stuff like that, they're all scattered throughout the city. So you do get to see like everywhere. And I really liked that. The last book, I loved this book. I read it quite a while ago now. When did I read it? When did it come out? 2020. And it was just so good. It is definitely Gossip Girl vibes, and that is Anna Kay. And it's actually a retelling of Anna Karenina. So if you know that storyline, you know the ending. I did cry when I read it, but this was just so great. There's so much drama, so much gossip, definitely giving Gossip Girl vibes because all the characters are also really rich. Again, love reading about rich people, and add in a sprinkle of New York and I'm there. Loved it. Like, this was such an easy 5 stars for me when I read it, and I just loved it so much. So there's quite a big cast of characters. As you can see, they have like lists, and you do kind of get to see the lives of each of these characters, how they intertwine, and just absolutely crazy. Really good. So definitely recommend that you read this if you like Gossip Girl, because that is definitely what this is giving. Just really good. I'm gonna stop this video here because I've already been talking for like 20 minutes. You're probably sick of me, but now you have a good list of books that you can read if you want to read from a New York City setting. But if you have any other tropes that you would like me to give book recommendations on, let me know in the comments because I will definitely do that for you. Also, let me know if there's any other books that you've read that are set in New York City that I haven't mentioned today, because obviously always trying to find more books in New York because I love it so much. So let me know if you have any in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below so you don't miss any new videos from me. I do post every single Saturday, so you don't want to miss a new video. But that's it for me today, and I will see you next week with a new video. Goodbye.